Now, on a critical subject, this panel looking at the cause of city violence and what we can do all together to bring about a change. Why city game changers, Jeremiah?
So City Game Changers, well, we wanted to bring together a panel to talk about the violence that was going on, in our homes, in our communities, in our schools and places of work. I mean, 95% of the violence that happens today happens in those arenas. So it was very important to pull this panel together to talk to people who were right at the heart of trying to reduce violence in our communities. So moderating this panel is a lawyer, political and women's rights activist, the inspirational Dr. Shola Moss Shagbamimu.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Peace One Day. And thank you for joining us for this panel. There's a City Game Changers panel in which we're going to be speaking to local sheroes and heroes, talking about ending violence and why this is important in order to be able to ensure that we have peace. Now, one of the key things we must all understand is that the best way to achieve peace is to invest. To achieve peace is to end violence, and the best way to end violence is to invest in peace. And every single one of our panelists today believes in these core messages. And there's a global countdown to ending and halving, should I say, halving global violence in 10 years. And so join us as we start with this conversation. And we're going to start right now with our first speaker, Fiorella Salazar, who's going to be speaking to us shortly.
Hello, Dr. Shawn. Good afternoon. I'm really honored
Good afternoon.
to be part of this global conversation. Really happy to be here.
We're absolutely chuffed to have you. Fiorella, before we get into the questions, can you just take a minute to tell us about you?
Well,
and what you do and why you invested in Peace One Day?
I am the Ministry of Peace and Justice here in Costa Rica. We work with children and teenagers preventing violence, and we also work with the penitentiary system here in Costa Rica. So we have both sides of the coin, working with peace, preventing, and trying to reinsert people in the society.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Fiorella. Well, we're going to be hearing so much more about what you're doing through these questions. Now, we know that the UN Secretary General has said that the success of all the Sustainable Development Goals depends on reducing violence, particularly by 50% in the next 10 years. Can you tell us why you also agree that reducing violence in cities is critical to the success of all SDGs?
Sure. And I think today is the really great day to talk about this. September 21 is a very special occasion in the calendar, to celebrate the continuous efforts that all citizens around the world undertake to get closer to this significant aspiration that we have as human beings about building safer and peaceful societies. Celebrate peace means a familiar concept for Costa Rican people, for us. We grew up singing it in the lyrics of our national anthem. We abolished our army 7 decades ago and decided to allocate those resources to education, healthcare, and social welfare. We have our own Nobel Peace winner, for his participation pursuing a solution during the Central American conflicts in the 80s. All this comes from a long history we have dedicating to our energy and human material resources to a path towards building peace, democracy, and citizen coexistence. This particular vision of life we have has allowed us to achieve remarkable increases, for example, in literacy, reaching technically a 100% nowadays. Increases in life expectancy that we have reached at levels of industrialized countries, and in general, increase in well-being. But even within this context, conflict and violence are still pervasive in our society, driven by poverty, inequality, and organized crime. An actual primary cause of concern is the violence against women in urban settings. It demands from us to continue working on strengthening our commitment to address those issues through sound public policy and engagement of all of the stakeholders. public institutions, local communities, private sectors, and NGOs. Costa Rica has taken steps to do so. The Ministry of Justice and Peace, here where I work, is only ministry in the world with the mandate to lead on peace, providing a critical budget and bridge between access to justice and violence prevention and reduction strategies. In a way, these institutional settings allow us to see both sides of the coin, as I was saying first, and the use of data from the penitentiary system to inform and strengthen the prevention strategies. This ambitious aspiration of reducing violence by 50% in the world over the next 10 years will allow us not only direct individual impacts, such as having more just societies, a great sense of security to go to school, for example, go shopping or work, safe environments to carry out outdoor activities, but also important social impacts such as lower rates of assaults and homicides, less crime-burdened justice systems, and less crowded prisons. This is very important for us. However, we cannot reduce violence if we do not address its underlying causes. It is, if we want to succeed in achieving the SDGs, we must commit our efforts to create more fair economies and more inclusive societies. Because as we all know, there is no peace with hunger, nor inclusion.
That's right. Thank you so much. I'm really impressed with what your ministry is doing. Can you talk to us about what strategies, solutions, or maybe even share some success stories with us about how you are building a safer and, as you said, more inclusive society and communities in Costa Rica?
We have been doing a lot of work, I will tell you. Here in Costa Rica, our ministry have been working on strengthening individual, family, and community nonviolence skills based on two main programs. The House of Justice program, which is based on community spaces for promoting dialogue and tools to development for alternative conflict resolution activities, which are led by specialists who carry out mediation processes, offering services free of charge. This is one program. And the other program are civic centers for peace, which are spaces of state presence, where a wide range of free of charge services are provided focused on prevention of violence for children and teenagers. They participate in recreational activities and training workshops that use culture, art, sports, technology to implement its preventive model focused on self-care, social inclusion, employability, education, and culture of peace. For this program, the ministry provides the building, and then it is operated by officials from different institutions, such local governments, NGOs, and private companies, contributing to this vision of joint work. I like to mention that during the pandemic time, most civic center services are being also provided online with great success. For example, today is the launching of the winner production of the Teenagers Music Contest, Song of Peace. Besides this, public policy has also been evolving in the direction of peace with new legislation recently approved. For example, regarding gun control last year, as well as prevention of street sexual harassment just a few weeks ago. At last but not least, I don't want to miss the opportunity to mention that Costa Rica has achieved 2 consecutive years of decrease of the homicide rate, and the hard work goes on to achieve the 3rd year in a row. To finish, I want to mention that Costa Rica joined the Pathfinders group of countries last year. And based on our tradition, we are confident that peace is the way to development. So today, in celebration of the International Day of Peace, we'd like to invite other countries to join the global movement to take collective action to end all forms of violence everywhere, so that all people are safe at home, online, and in their cities and societies. I think this is the effort we cannot stop doing.
Well, I definitely stand in solidarity with you, and I totally agree with you. Peace is the way to go, and we must curb violence at all costs. Thank you very much, Fiorella. We're going to go on to our next speaker right now, Emmanuel Amitepay, And looking forward to, we'll be speaking to you soon again, Fiorella. So Emmanuel Amitepay, who's joining us shortly. Hello, Emmanuel.
Hello, Doc. Hello, good afternoon from Ghana.
Hello, excellent. It's a pleasure to have you. Can you, just for a minute or so, can you tell us about you, about your organization, what you do?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Amitepay, and I work with Youth Advocates Ghana as the executive director. So Youth Advocates Ghana is a youth organization basically promoting youth empowerment and engagement in our national development efforts. We work in the area of health, education, children's rights, governance, and the sustainable development.
Okay, excellent. So can you tell us what your organization does specifically in building safer and more peaceful communities in Ghana?
Right. Thank you very much once again. And it is a great honor and pleasure to be joining this panel in marking the National Day of Peace. Youth Advocates Ghana, as a youth-led organization, is based in Ghana. We were formed in 2011 out of the need to meet the challenges confronting children with respect to sexual violence and its related consequences. So we did so through awareness creation sessions, training programs, and counseling for affected victims, their parents, and communities. Now, over the years, Youth Advocates Ghana has expanded its programs to include domains such as youth enterprise and skill development, active youth citizens engagement, and youth participation in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, not only in Ghana, but across Africa. In 2017, YAG launched the African Youth SDG Summit as a Pan-African multi-stakeholder platform for youth engagement on the Africa's development effort, including uniting young people to build a culture of peace and resilient society in Africa. Now, the summit has evolved to become an important multi-stakeholder platform with focus on young people and their role in achieving the SDG target. Over the last 2 years of the life of the summit, it has also attracted about 2,000 youth and other stakeholders to deliberate on critical issues affecting the achievement of the SDGs and peace in Africa. From the interactions of the past two summits, it was evident that the youth of Africa have become increasingly visible and effectively active in influencing national programs and national policies with new ideas, new philosophies, with technological expertise available to them. They have also the capacity to bring fresh perspective to the development approach, while through critical thinking, innovation, and their own style of communication, they are able to bring changes within their own communities and countries. Now, with Youth Advocates Ghana's vision as a society where children and young people influence decisions that affect their lives, enjoy their rights, and assume their responsibilities as full citizens, YAG is committed to further push youth involvement in building peaceful society through innovative programs to economically, socially, and politically empower young people to meaningfully contribute to world peace. As a youth leader, I hold it as a responsibility to serve as an example and become an ambassador for peace. And leaders at every level must uphold the values and tenets for uniting our world and ensuring that the peace and stability we are enjoying today are protected. And for countries where insecurity threatens peace, we have no reason to work hard to end conflict and bring peace to every society. Thank you.
I like that. End conflict, bring peace to every society, be an ambassador for peace, and including the incredible work that you're doing in your space to make that happen. So without a doubt, I know that you agree with the UN Secretary General when he says that the success of all the SDGs has to be and depends on reducing violence by 50% in the next 10 years. So can you tell us what challenges you faced with that? Because I know you agree that that's the case. We must have violence. What challenges have you faced with that, and what have you done to reduce violence in Ghana?
Right. Thank you very much. Wherever violence thrives, cities are unable to turn the tide of adversity into a tidal wave for progress. Violence affects the implementation of other global goals, including its impact on education, health, infrastructure, among other key element of peaceful and developed societies. So leaders at all levels must take responsibility for achieving significant, sustained, and measurable reduction in violence. Survivors, family members of victims, the worst affected communities and need that kind of platform to be able to bring violence out of the shadow and to help shape prevention strategies. Breaking cycles of violence requires a sustained effort to strengthen legal frameworks, confront the norms and behaviors that lead to high level of violence against women and children, and promote inclusion of young people and communities affected by violence. Wherever violence thrives, there stands a child, a woman unable to turn the tide of adversity into a tidal wave of progress. Our commitment to them, together with your commitment to have all forms of violence by 2030. In celebration of the International Day of Peace, join us to take collective action to end all forms of violence everywhere, so that all women and girls at home, online, in their communities and cities will be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I found your words really powerful when you said bring violence out of the shadows, because we know violence is also the silent enemy, and violence is also the invisible enemy. There's a violence you don't see that is behind closed doors. So we should not allow violence to, to exist in any form. Absolutely spot on. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Amitepay. We'll be back with you shortly. We're going to speak to our next panelist right now, Mayor Clara Luz Flores. Hello, Mayor. Wonderful.
Hello.
Well, thank you for being with us today.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy.
Muchas gracias por la invitación y muy honrada por la oportunidad de trabajar y participar en estos foros en un día tan especial como es el Día de la Paz.
Thank you very much for having me, especially today that's the Peace Day. I am very glad to be here and I am very honored.
Thank you. We would love for you to tell us about yourself. Say in a minute, can you tell us about what you do?
Sobre ti y lo que haces.
Pues yo soy presidenta municipal en Nuevo León, en un municipio de Nuevo León. En este municipio he sido presidenta municipal por 3 veces. Eso no es fácil en México.
I have been mayor in Escobedo for 3 periods in a row, and that is not something common here in Mexico.
Porque los periodos duran poco tiempo y durante estas 3 ocasiones he implementado programas para reducir la violencia en las familias.
And during these 3 periods, I have focused in reducing violence within family members.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, we'll go to the question now. Can you please tell us, I know you're aware that about 600,000 people were killed in cities outside conflict zones in 2018. Why is such a high percentage of violence happening in an urban context?
Creo que hay varias razones. La primera tiene que ver con desigualdad. Hay una falta de oportunidades en todos los sectores sociales.
I think there are several reasons. The first one would be that there is inequality in different sectors of society.
La autoridad, la definición de autoridad que realmente sea una autoridad que inspire a crecer, a ser mejores, no una autoridad que sea opresora y represora.
We are focusing on the authority forces that they are not authoritative or suppressive, that they are inspiring, that they are inclusive, that they become part of the society, and the society can be friends with them too.
Y que busque el respeto con el ejemplo, que esta autoridad respete a sus ciudadanos, dándoles condiciones de oportunidades, condiciones de desarrollo y por lo tanto que sea un espejo para que la autoridad, para que los ciudadanos también respeten a su autoridad y a su entorno.
We're focusing on always preaching with the example. So authority figures that are on the street are acting with this respect, and we're focusing on mirroring these images to society. So we don't only say it, but we act it and we be it too.
Y definitivamente la impunidad que se pudiera generar desde la justicia y esa impunidad genera que los integrantes de una familia pudieran ver esto como una forma de actuar, la violencia como una forma de actuar, y creo yo que ahí es donde es la fábrica de delincuentes, le llamamos nosotros, donde se genera la fábrica de delincuentes, que es en la familia. En una familia en un seno violento, con las puertas cerradas, como lo decías, pues se está generando hacia las mujeres, hacia los niños, hacia los jóvenes, una forma de vida violenta.
We have been detecting that violence, as we call it, the fabric of the violence is inside the houses, as you said, behind closed doors. So we are identifying those places and trying to act within the family where we feel that violence is first created.
That sounds brilliant. And can I ask though, strategy, success stories, solutions, can you share with us that you've found through your works with preventing violence, with eradicating it, with stopping it in its, right there at its doorstep? And how does it play part in building a much safer and peaceful city in your communities?
Pues varios aspectos. Primero, decir que había que resolver el problema de la violencia desde la integralidad. Tenemos 10 años trabajando en esta resolución de disminuir la violencia en nuestro municipio, y estos 10 años han sido buscando un modelo que sea integral, que vaya desde la autoridad, respetando a los ciudadanos, desde procesos transparentes para los ciudadanos, procesos justos para los ciudadanos, y que vayan además los procesos de atención efectiva hacia los ciudadanos.
We have been focusing on integral peace, for example, from authority figures to the communities, and we have been working on this for 10 years, and we can say that we've found this to be very effective.
Llevamos desde que la autoridad sea efectiva, transparente y respetuosa a los ciudadanos, y con ese ejemplo trasladamos.
And we are always focused on that, on the authority figures being transparent, being honest, and focusing on this because they are the first reflection society sees.
Trasladamos a que los ciudadanos hoy seamos utilizando el deporte como herramienta de transformación.
One of the strategies we use is using sports as a means of uniting communities, focusing on the youth.
Y generamos estos sembradores de paz. Una vez que el año pasado hicimos esta declaración de paz en paz en nuestras ciudades, el Día Internacional de la Paz hace un año. Desde entonces, generar estos sembradores y constructores de paz.
We have been focused also on people that will print out and people that will be creating also peace. In a sense, we're trying to put a seed and then construct in a different way.
Desde que haya un joven que pudiera estar en una circunstancia de violencia en su caso, tratamos de transformar toda su realidad, su entorno, para que sea este joven que no sea una oportunidad para irse a la fábrica de violencia.
We focus on young individuals, and we get them into different, for example, sports, different activities. So when we focus on them, we stop the violence in the future.
En el 2011, en el año 2011, el nivel de confianza en nuestra policía era del 40%.
In 2011, people trusted police force in 40%.
En el 2019, el nivel de confianza en la policía era del 69%.
We increased it in 2019 to 69%.
Aumentó un 29% la confianza en la policía.
So there was a 29% increase in trust from the community to the police.
Y del 2016 al 2019 hubo una reducción delictiva del 25% en los datos del 2016 al 2019.
And from 2016 to 2019, there was a 25% reduction of violence.
Muy importante decir que esto no hubiera sido posible sin la participación de las organizaciones de la sociedad civil.
But this has been an effort from different parties, and we need to say that the community has been actively participating in this.
Las universidades, organizaciones internacionales que nos han permitido documentar estos conflictos.
Also, universities and ONGs have helped us documenting these activities.
Pero sin embargo, esto tiene que ir conforme vayan pasando los gobiernos. No puede ser una actividad que solo dure el periodo de un gobierno, sino que dure a lo largo del tiempo. El objetivo que tenemos o el objetivo de reducción de violencia para el 2030. Así que invitamos a que sigamos actuando como autoridades, como sociedad desde donde estemos, para contribuir a esta reducción de la violencia del 50%.
And of course, in our part, we are focused not only on this period, but we are also focused on the future to 2030, and this will include the next period of government. And we would like to invite everyone to participate in this type of action.
I think it's very impressive, Mayor, how you have worked so hard to address the issue of violence and recognizing that it has become a part of the fabric of society. So the solution is to, again, address it as a fabric of society. So the solution has to be interwoven into society. Really interesting to hear about the activities you've initiated to be able to address this from, bottom up. I think that's really important. That's excellent. Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next speaker now, but we'll be speaking with you soon again. Thank you. So we're going to be speaking to Skeena Rathor, our next panelist.
Hello, shalom and salam. Peace. I want to wish you peace.
I wish you peace too. I love that smile. Loving that smile. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to get into it and hear all of your contribution. Now, I know that without a doubt, you also agree with the UN Secretary General when he says that we must have violence in 10 years by 50%. So I would love to hear your view on how best to address that. But before we get there, I would love for you to tell us about yourself and what you do in, say, 1 minute.
Sure, thank you. So I am one of the co-founders of a visioning team for Extinction Rebellion, which is the world's largest non-violent peaceful global rebellion project of disobedience. We're a global movement, and my daily practice is to bring that movement into its thriving and its togetherness.
Excellent. So tell us how with the ethos of achieving peace, right, and ending violence, how you feel that the movement for climate change can help to achieve that. especially with curbing violence by 50% in 10 years?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shola. I think firstly, I want to remind people watching this, and I want to always remind myself, because this is why we're here and why we're speaking to one another, that the Sustainable Development Goals are in place because there is worldwide recognition that we are in a global emergency of epic proportions, existential threat to life on Earth. And what that actually means, because it's really easy for us to distance ourselves from the word climate, from the words global warming. They're scientific. They don't conjure up anything tangible for us as humans too often. But what that means is that we are in a global health crisis, and we've seen that because through COVID, that we are in a very palpable global health crisis, and it is linked to destruction of our biodiversity and our habitats. And we are entering into a period where we will most probably be in a global food security crisis, a global water security crisis, a global energy crisis. Now, this is quite horrific in terms of the probability of what the suffering and the violence that this could accelerate. And we know this has happened because of the violence, right? Within our systems, within the way we live our lives, within how we are destroying the very nature that we need to live by and live with. So we're in this perpetual cycle of violence. There's an inner violence that we don't speak about often enough, just the way we relate to ourselves, our inner being, our inner speak, the way society and culture is organized. If we think about media and how violent the media is, if we think about our economic systems and the violence within them, if we think about our democracy and how combative and very destructive, demoralizing places too often that they are. It is no surprise that we've designed our systems in violent ways, and that they are destroying us. We are in mass self-harm, mass self-violence, and it's a really sad state of affairs. And I'm so grateful to you for bringing this together, and for us to be able to speak and discover the causes and where this violence is the reality, the awful reality of where this violence is taking us. And most of all, I'm thinking about our children when we talk about violence. I'm thinking about the fact that this crisis threatens the lives of children of all species, including our own, in our children's lifetime. It is most likely they will see horrendous suffering and an escalation of extreme violence because of climate and ecological breakdown. This is heartbreaking. It also questions whether our children's lives will continue at all. We are on the edge of the 6th mass extinction. And so this couldn't be more important.
I think to your point, Skeena, I think you're saying that violence as we know it is not just physical. The violence comes in different forms. And I think you used an example. You talked about the different other types of crisis that we're facing and how it can impact for generations. So what solutions and strategies, or perhaps success stories can you share on how best to address these type of violence that you're talking about, and what we should do going forward?
So I think what I'm saying, Dr. Shola, is that we've reached the line. It's not just that it will impact generations. It's that the earth has reached the end of the line with us and our violence. And so what I think the work is now for movements across the world, including the United Nations, for nation states and governments, for movements within our economic sector, for movements within our education sector, all our sectors, and the work of Extinction Rebellion, is to discover what is non-violence. I don't think as human beings we've been able to really know, certainly within our lifetimes where there is just continuous war, that what is non-violence? What does that mean? When I think about non-violence, I think about, and Extinction Rebellion is heavily investing in a project called the Co-Liberation Project. Yeah. And in that project, we're trying to discover what could be agreements between ourselves and what could be agreements that we have with ourselves to operate in our freedom and in our sense of belonging to community. Yeah. So how can I be my most powerful, purposeful, free self? And how can I stand in community with that and hold my community in non-violence, in discovering what that is? So I think we're at the choice point of, if humanity wants to continue, we need to discover non-violence.
The idea of that, let's discover what non-violence is and take that route. Thank you so much, Skinner. I thought we'll be right back to our next panelist now, Kashif Siddiqui. And on.
Hey, Dr. Shala, how are you?
Hello, Kashif. Thank you for waiting, and thank you patiently as you the other panelists. So I would love for you to tell us about you and what you do.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on. And secondly, you look amazing. The necklace looks amazing.
You're too kind. Thank you.
And it's been an inspiring day of dialogue. And, I continue to be inspired by Jeremy and what he's achieved. And today highlighting and bringing together so many like-minded people from all over the world. And to answer your question, I think the decade of peace starts now. And we start the countdown to achieve the most significant reduction in global violence in history, inspired by the global goals. And my personal journey as a footballer toward co-founding Football for Peace with FIFA legend Elias Figueroa has really put us at the forefront of empowering youth to rise against the most pressing global issues that are facing planet and serving the needs of others, using the power of football, and which, Dr. Shola, football touches 3.5 billion people. And to use this platform to intervene and raise awareness of the world's most pressing issues, we're doing it by combining community-based activity with diplomatic impact. So we're trying to create that kind of bridge. And it's a concept that we call football diplomacy. And it's really about bringing education, awareness to issues that are interconnected both locally and globally. And in doing so, we support the UN SDGs through a combination of our 5 key pillars, which are social justice, which we're really focusing on today, and violence, but also around equality, water, climate, and poverty, because I think issues around violence, and some of the other panels speakers have spoke about it, everything is very interconnected and one feeds into the other. And I think that's something that we're advocating for. And we really understand the power, and I understand the power of the universal language of football and how this is deployed through soft power activities and how that can achieve positive outcomes at not only individual level, but at community and national levels to affect change, where today we're seeing 1 in 2 children worldwide experiencing violence everywhere. And I think that has to be a collective effort of the sports world, because a footballer or a football club, or even a football federation is not able to do so. It has to be a member association collective effort to really make that difference. But just to touch on some of the points you made earlier on the question on how we are affecting change within cities. As Game Changers, our DNA of the organization is really our Young Peace Leaders program. And the mayor touched on it earlier, and using sport as a tool to affect grassroots change. And we are committed to creating social and sustainable change by building a global community of young peace leaders. And what I mean by young peace leaders is building young, resilient children. And we've actually set ourselves a goal to have signed up 1 million young peace leaders by the year 2030, in parallel online with the UN SDGs. And ironically, the design of the program has actually grown out of our learning by delivering these programs around the world in some of the most hard-to-reach cities, villages, towns, and it's input from our greatest asset, which has been young people and footballers. And it can be deployed in any country and engage any community. And we were very fortunate to have this concept launched by His Royal Highness, the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, back in 2015, which made Birmingham our first city for peace in Europe. The actual program engages young people in delivering programs, but actually by young professional athletes, and it's taking part in unique on-the-pitch life skill workshops as well as in the classroom environment. And this includes accredited qualifications supporting the SDGs. And we introduce non-tactical issues around behavior and non-technical issues around social behavior. And it's really trying to have a contribution towards a child's purpose and meaning, belonging, inclusion, diversity and status, but also well-being. We talk about mental health well-being, but it's also the physical, the spiritual, the nutrition, and opportunities for these children to get to the next stage in their life, and whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be in the football world or the sporting world. It's providing exit strategies for these children with an aim to reduce violence and promote sustainable communities. And we partner with mayors, football clubs, faith establishments. And it's really trying to not only make the impact, but also to measure the impact. And our work is subject to rigorous measurements and evaluation, evidencing change in both behaviors and attitudes.
I like that. And I like the way you've described it as football diplomacy. It's definitely addressing the issues of the SDGs and curbing violence in a way that addresses it, interweaving into the fabric of society. So using the same words as Mayor Clara Flores used earlier. Can you just tell us quickly where you feel that you are able, through what you do, to be able to support Goal 16 and bring about that reduction of urban violence by 50%? Maybe 1 or 2 practical steps, and then we can take a question from the audience.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very big question. In my opinion, the best way to achieve peace everywhere is to reduce violence everywhere. And as mentioned earlier, football's touching 3.5 billion people. And I feel sport across the world can automatically have a responsibility to deliver these key messages to communities, especially young people, in some ways that are looking up to football clubs or footballers, influencers in society. And I feel from experience, we have to focus on complementing on areas on resilience building, leadership, and sport values that we have on the pitch that can be taken off the pitch. And I think it's not just a case of, as mentioned earlier, of us as individuals, but I think it has to be a collective global effort from the sporting world to support this. And I feel that, firstly, to give clarity on the sport against violence, it's about building confidence amongst member states, federation institutions, that sport can actually really be an effective tool for violence in all aspects.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'd like to bring all the other panelists back on. I'm hoping we can do 1 or 2 questions before we have to leave, because I literally only have a few minutes. So I'm going to be really quick, and I'm going to say to you guys to give me 1 word to answer this question. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because this is going to be quick. So we have a question that what actions has your city government taken in order to reduce the physical and mental violence in its city? So if you can give me 1 action, you don't need to go into a sentence, just 1 action that your government has taken or your organization has taken to reduce physical and mental violence. Let's start with you, Cash. 1 action.
Football diplomacy.
Thank you. Skeena?
Our non-violent civil disobedience.
Excellent. Emmanuel?
Education empowerment.
Brilliant. Fiorella?
sports, art, and culture working together with children and teenagers.
Okay.
I like the way you squeeze all that in. And Mayor Clara Flores?
Trabajar con los jóvenes, con la autoridad, con la sociedad civil, con las organizaciones internacionales.
We need to work with youth. We need to work with the police. We need to work with the community, and we need to work with ONGs all together.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I agree. So we'll take one more question. I have 3 minutes left, so I'm only going to give you a sentence. So with this question, the question is, how do we inspire leaders to embrace peace both within our countries and globally? Great financial gain and power to be had for many to ensure this does not happen. You have one sentence. Let's start with Mayor Flores.
Invitándolos a que entiendamos que la reducción de la violencia que entiendan que la reducción de la violencia es más pacífica, que veamos que las ciudades es más fácil administrarlas, las que sean pacíficas que las que sean violentas, independientemente del riesgo que nosotros podamos tener.
One sentence.
We need to inspire leaders and make them understand that it's more practical and it's easier to administer a city with violence in a peaceful way.
Thank you, Fiorella.
Peace is profitable for people, for the economy, and for the country. Let's go on the peace path.
Excellent, Emmanuel.
Yes, we need to recognize and reward leaders who are promoting peace.
Reward leaders who are promoting peace. I like that. Skeena.
I think we need to ask our leaders to tell the truth about the scale and magnitude of the global emergency that we face.
Excellent. Cash.
I think we can bring in the capacity of athletes, clubs, media, the footballing world and the sporting world, and a private sector and multilateral institutes who can develop more sports-based programs that intervene for those at risk.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. I hope you all, as you're watching, I'm saying this to the audience now, please give a big round of applause to our panelists. We've learned so much about what you're doing with your organizations and in your cities and communities. It sounds incredible to me, and I hope that you're able to take a whole lot out of this. We must curb and end violence by in 10 years. I mean, we can eradicate the thing, that would be great. But let's keep working together, collaborating and sharing our views and initiatives to bring about peace every single day, not just one day. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Happy Peace Day. Happy Peace Day.
So thank you, panelists. A critical conversation. Wow. Once again, my sincere thanks for all of you to join us today. Thank you so much. That was an amazing discussion.